I'm actually doing an ear training exercise right now. Ear training is something that many people want to focus on because we want to train our ears, which makes sense because we're playing music and music is sound, right? So we can focus all day on scale shapes and scales and theory and all the tools of music, but ear training really should be one of the most important tools, right? But I never really thought it was because, ear training in school was like you have to be able to identify what chord is being played. So is this the seventh on the minor or is this the ninth and all of that? And that was, that was cool, but it was like a little game that didn't really stick. I couldn't apply it to anything I did when I was playing music. What I could apply, what was relevant and super relevant when I played rock and pop and jazz music and whatever, was soloing. And in soloing, you can't get around that. If you want to improvise and play really cool solos, you have to train your ear, but you have to do it in connection with your fingers. You have to be able to find the right and the coolest notes when you play solos. And you can have some help from arpeggio shapes, right? If you got the right arpeggio shape, you got a D minor chord in the background, and you got the arpeggio shape of D minor, which are all the chord notes, then you can, those are cool notes to end on. They sound home. So that's a shape. But you can't get around the fact that if you haven't a trained ear, then you won't really relax when you're playing solos. You always depend on, I got to find the right notes, instead of your ear being the guidance. And this exercise is really gold when it comes to that. So what you're going to do now is go download the jam track and the charts so we can start playing the C major scale. And this will work for any scale. We're just practicing using the C major scale. And then you can apply it without even thinking about it automatically to any scale because this is ear training and not scale training. So what the jam track is, let me just put it on here, is basically all 7 chords of the C major scale. And we start with C, which is what you hear now. Actually sounds a little bit like shopping music when I hear it now. Sorry, but it works. The next chord is D minor, then E minor, then F major, G major, and so on. They all come from C major. So what we practice is basically taking 3 strings from the first position that you see in the charts, and we play the top 3 strings of the cage shape. Doesn't matter what shape it is. Doesn't matter, a 3-note per string, don't care. Just take a secluded area of that scale. Not too much. 3 top strings in one position. And then what we're going to try first is we're going to listen. This is the ear training method. This is the ear training exercise that I have done, and it works miracles for your soloing. So I'm just going to take that shape. Sounds a little spicy, and then try out each note. Well, that sounds like home. Oh, that sounds like home too. This not so much. No. Oh, then when we go to a new chord, right? You can take your looper and then you can play a C major chord in the background and then stay there forever, which I recommend. But, right? Good note. Once you've investigated each and every note in this little shape here, and don't worry about, I have to do it in all the other shapes, on all the other strings, it will be easier and easier. You'll progress faster and faster if you stay in one shape enough. If you master just this little one area, then mastering the other areas will be faster all the time you learn and master a new shape, a new 3-string, 1-position shape. So, once you've started being familiar with how the notes sound, and you got that visual image of, that sounded well, that did, and this did. This was kind of spicy, this a lot spicy, and these two sounded kind of cool, but this is home. And then you start getting really familiar with what sounds like tension and what sounds like home, like resting, right? Over the C. And then you try to create melodies once you get to that point. right? And basically a melody is just taking one of these notes that sound really cool and then going through or over one of the notes that doesn't sound as cool to get tension for a short period of time and then back into a note that sounds really cool, right? Or like home. And what you can always trust is that since every chord you hear in the background is three notes, from a 7-note scale, the C major scale, all the chords come from that scale and it's 3 notes from it. Then there are only 4 notes that are not in the chord being played. And those sound like tension. The 3 notes from the scale that are already in the chord sounds like home. So every time you find the notes that sound like home, like harmony, it's notes from the chord, right? But it also means that if you have a scale of 7 notes and 3 of them is home and 4 of them is kind of out or tension, then you know that almost in every case, if you hear some tension by playing one of these notes, you just have to move one note down or one note up in the scale and you'll find something that's not tension. So listen to this. I'm just going to pick a random note. See, that was tension. And I just went one note down and found home. That's tension. That's also tension. But this is not. All right? So the home is never far away. And we build melodies by going from one of these notes that sound really harmonious to one of the notes that doesn't, and then back again. So I could go resting note, tension, tension, and resting note. And if I play that over a C major, it sounds like a little melody if I can hit the button. Right, I'm starting on this, ending on that. Right? So that is the most productive ear training tool you have. And you're playing with it and you're using your ear. You have to shift from the scale shape. You have to have that down. And then you shift to only focusing on your ear, like a blind person learning how to really focus by using his ears, because that's where all his focus goes. Now that he's not, distracted by his vision, right? Or his eyesight. The same thing goes here. You really have to listen intensely. And the more time you spend on just 3 strings in one shape, the better you become and the faster you will cover the whole fretboard in all the other shapes. But in this particular, I recommend that you take these chords, the C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished or half diminished, and then practice with each of them with a looper pedal. So you can just go and then loop that and just stay with the C major chord. But this jam track takes all 7 chords. We got like 8 bars per chord, and then we shift. So that's a little bit advanced, but still, I'm just gonna illustrate to you what ear training means if you spend enough time there with each of these chords. Just playing random notes, but ending on notes that sound really home. Here comes D minor. Right. E minor. Right, here comes F major. We just got 4 bars again. But this is the tool. And what it enables you to do is learn to create melodies on the spot. You simply play around with the notes and you walk around the scale and you create the magic that you want to create by ear only, because you're listening to the chord and you're playing notes on top of it. That is really the most effective, most relevant ear training exercise I know of. So use it and become very, very good at this. But start in one area and don't worry if you spend like 4 weeks on 3 strings or in one position like this with the same 7 chords. Because you will absolutely, even you just say you practice the first 2 or 3 chords, then the rest is going to be increasingly easy. unless you go so fast ahead that you don't really master anything on your way there, then everything is going to maintain being hard. But if you spend enough time with the first chord, enough time with the second, then already there, in the one position, it's going to be easier and easier and easier to find the right notes because your ear gets training, right? Then you go to another shape, takes half the time of the first shape to find all the right notes there, right? Next shape takes a quarter of the first shape. And then suddenly you just, if you know the scale across the fretboard, you just got the skill. You don't care where you are. You simply just find the right note. Right? And then what actually happens is that if you do this, the next step is then to have a chord progression with 4 chords that goes like half a chord each. That doesn't matter. Because you did this exercise, you can now spin melodies and lines over any chord progression using your ear without knowing what chords are being played in the background. That's how effective this is. But you have to just stay with it and stay with one place for long enough to engage in this mastery principle of mastery, right? You can't do, in 10 years I'm going to master this. Master 3 strings in one position now, please. That's the only way to get to that place you want to get to, is to stay with it and build the mastery now. It's not a place someday. It will never appear if you're not focused on what can I master today? What can I master this week? How can I take something small enough and then really become so good at it that I master it? And then take that gem, that diamond of mastery and explode it to the rest. Because that's how learning is when you master something small, that the next thing becomes easier and easier and easier and easier. Just going to have some fun. Just going to go to another chord here and then I'll see you in the next video.